Hollywood kills, and it has killed more vintage beauties than you know. These beauties were talented, glamorous, and loved by all. However, the pressure from Hollywood became too much for them to bear. From Brynn Hartman to Christine Chubbuck, these are 7 vintage beauties who shot themselves to death. The first one is quite unfortunate. Brynn Hartman was born in Minnesota and found fame as a journalist. She began her journalism career as a news reporter for a local newspaper. Due to her work ethic and dedication, she became an exceptional television news anchor, but Brynn allegedly wanted more. She allegedly chased Hollywood glory, but she wasn't getting to the level she wanted. In 1987, she married the comedic genius Phil Hartman, who acted in House Guest. He was a big part of TV shows like Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons. Their marriage was troubled by Phil's business and Brynn not being at the level she wanted, fueling the conflict. Things got darker with each passing day, making history in 1996 by becoming the first female co-anchor of Good Morning America didn't precisely provide her with much relief. Brynn began to drink, and when alcohol wasn't enough, she turned to drugs. Phil wasn't happy with his wife's reliance on drugs and alcohol. In the evening of May 1998, the couple argued, and Phil told Brynn that if she didn't stop with the drugs and alcohol, he would divorce her. Brynn knew he would do it. Phil had divorced 2 times before marrying her. After the argument, Phil went to sleep, and Brynn, she decided to make his sleep permanent. Pumping herself full of drugs and alcohol, Brynn hatched a plan, a dark plan. Grabbing a .38 caliber handgun, Brynn went to meet her sleeping husband and pumped him full of bullets. Then, after going to her friend's house and telling him what she did, she put a bullet in her own head. Brynn took death do us part too seriously. Naomi Jud. Do not let Y come to my funeral. She is mentally ill, Naomi Jud wrote, underlining the not. So, why did Jud write what she wrote? Let's dial it back a bit. Naomi Jud was born to Charles Glenn and Pauline Ruth Jud on January 11, 1946, in Ashland, Kentucky. Naomi knew by heart the song that Tragedy sang as she experienced her first tragedy when she was sexually molested as a child. This molestation left wounds in the actress's mind, and we'll show you how deep the wounds were soon. The country music singer and actress lost her 17-year-old brother to cancer in 1965. Then she experienced abandonment when her boyfriend impregnated her and left her when she was 18. Naomi had her first daughter, Winona, and had to raise her alone. When Michael Simonella showed interest in her, she quickly married him and gave birth to Ashley in 1968. Unfortunately, Naomi suffered another loss. Simonella left her. Now, the actress and singer had to raise 2 children on her own while she attended nursing school at California's College of Marin. Things got better for Naomi when she and her daughter formed the Judds, a singing duo that dominated the charts and racked up awards, including 5 Grammys. Then another tragedy occurred. The singing duo broke up when doctors diagnosed Naomi with hepatitis C in 1991. While she continued to achieve success as a solo actress, her tragedies followed her around. However, there were periods of happiness. She married musician Larry Strickland in 1989 and would remain together for over 30 years. Naomi's mental health began to crumble. The molestation she suffered in her childhood, which she suppressed, ate away at her mind. She suffered from depression. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be the only mental health problem she had. The country singer and actress also had anxiety and panic attacks. Naomi got treatment for her mental health problems, which also included PTSD and bipolar disorder. But there was a problem. The drugs made things worse because of their side effects, such as tremors, baldness, and facial edema. After the Judds' last encore tour in 2012, her problems grew further, and she got diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression, as treatments weren't working for her. The actress then began to have suicidal thoughts, but didn't act on them. One day, Larry traveled, and Naomi didn't want to be alone. Maybe if she weren't alone, what happened next wouldn't have. On April 30th, 2022, her daughter Ashley saw her in a manic state and called the family doctor, Dr. Ted Klontz, who attended to her. When the doctor left the room, Naomi did the unexpected. She pulled a gun to the side of her head and pulled the trigger. The singer took her own life and wrote in her suicide note that her daughter Wynonna had mental health problems. Do you think Wynonna is hiding the truth about her mental health? Naomi's death hurt her family, who were left to deal with the pain of their mother's loss and a media that was too eager to share details of their mother's death. The next beauty on this list would break your heart. Watch on. Daisy Coleman. Nothing could have prepared Daisy Coleman for the life ahead of her when she was born on March 30th, 1997 in Albany, Missouri. The blonde beauty grew up to be a passionate advocate for sexual assault victims. But Daisy carried a dark secret, and her passion was born from a past that couldn't be buried. In 2009, what should have been a fun family night out for Daisy turned into an unimaginable horror. She, her dad, and one of her brothers were traveling in the car to watch and support another of her brothers in a wrestling competition. Then it happened. Suddenly, their car hit black ice and plunged into a ravine. Daisy and her brother would live that night, but her dad sadly didn't. It was this accident that caused the Coleman family to move to Maryville, Missouri. If only they had known what awaited them there. In January 2012, the police arrested 17-year-old Matthew Barnett from Maryville, Missouri, and his two friends, aged 15 and 13. The county prosecutor dropped felony and misdemeanor charges against Barnett, who was related to an influential politician in the state. Daisy and her family were distraught when this happened. What Daisy had accused Barnett of doing was horrible. She accused Barnett of raping her and leaving her in front of her house in the freezing cold. Daisy's allegations didn't earn her sympathy in Maryville, Missouri. It only brought them misery. Young Daisy became subject to bullying and harassment, which reached the point that she and her family had to leave town. Fortunately, authorities revisited the case, and there was outrage. Many said online that the charges against Barnett shouldn't have been dropped. Finally, Daisy would get justice, or so she and her family thought, but she didn't. Barnett was only convicted of a misdemeanor second-degree endangerment of a child for leaving her outside her house in the cold. He got a 4-month jail sentence, which was suspended for 2 years probation instead. At the juvenile court, he was only convicted for assault. Life went on, but not for the Colemans. Daisy and her family became fierce advocates for sexual victims. Daisy became one of HuffPost's fearless teens in 2013. In 2016, her rape became the subject of a Netflix documentary, Audrey and Daisy. She then co-founded Safe Bay, the sexual assault prevention organization. Unfortunately, Daisy suffered more loss. Her brother Tristan died in 2018. She tried to heal and move on with her life, but the bullying and harassment had taken their toll on her, and she took her own life on August 4th, 2020. But the story didn't end there. Daisy's mom, Melinda, could not move on. She became depressed at her daughter's death. 4 months after Daisy passed, Melinda followed her as she ended her own life too. Mary Kay Bergman, Leanne Cartman, Sharon Marsh, Shelley Marsh, Carol McCormick, Sheila Broflovsky, and Wendy Testerberger. These are all South Park characters, and Mary Kay Bergman voiced them all. Brilliant, isn't it? She was just marvelous, and she even did Snow White, even if the way she got the role was slightly controversial. The weight of her talent was so enormous that Disney gave her a try and immediately decided to discard Adriana Caselotti, who had been voicing Snow White for them. Even when Mary told Disney she would only voice Snow White if Caselotti was unavailable, Disney didn't care. They just wanted her. Everyone wanted her, and that want came with a fear that grew steadily, eating bits and pieces of Mary away. Mary was born to veteran entertainers, with her father and mother being musicians. She followed in her parents' footsteps as entertainers, preferring to act. However, she didn't have much success until an accident happened. No, not that kind of accident, it's the good kind. After giving up her dream of becoming a world-renowned entertainer, Mary attended a housewarming party. At the party, someone brought a karaoke machine and the mic landed on Mary to perform. She did, and it was sensational. The actress did many voice impressions that one of the guests connected her to voiceover coach Kat Lehman, and from there, Mary would rule. But like every queen, she had her fears. She felt she would be upstaged and lose her talent. She didn't like the work she did, feeling it was inadequate. As this pressure piled on her, her mother fell sick. It was cancer, and Mary didn't react well to it. At least, that was what everyone thought. You see, Mary kept a secret. She suffered from bipolar and generalized anxiety disorders, and she didn't tell anyone. She stashed mood medicines around the house, and no one saw. So when she became sad and moody when her mother was sick, everyone concluded it was the sickness and pressure from work. When her mom got better, Mary appeared to be too. However, when the stress continued, she began to plan a Las Vegas vacation with her husband. They also planned to buy a house. Everything seemed normal on November 11, 1999. By 9 p.m., Mary was on a call, and some minutes to 11 p.m., her husband discovered her dead, her head blown apart by a 12-gauge shotgun which she used on herself. Brenda Bennett. Brenda Bennett became the go-to girl for sweet or seductive roles. This dark-haired beauty featured in several roles in episodic primetime television in the 1960s and 70s. From her debut in Shindig in 1964, the actress would go on to star in soap operas, The Young Marrieds and Days of Our Lives from 1979 to 1982. Those two works would be what the actress is best known for, and one of them would contribute to the actress's greatest misfortune. How? You'll see. Bennett was born in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California in 1945 and learned ballet. The incredibly talented actress also learned to play piano, flute, and violin. She could speak 5 languages as she majored in languages in college. Bennett married fellow actor Paul Peterson in 1967 and left him when she met Bill Bixby in 1969. She married Bixby after her divorce from Peterson in 1971. The couple would go on to have a child in September of 1974. The second time would not be the charm for Bennett, as she and Bill Bixby divorced in 1980, and for her, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Her role as Lee Dumond in Days of Our Lives became a source of sorrow for her. She played her character too well, and the audience hated her. Bennett's character caused the breakup of people's favorite couple on the show. While she was feeling the pressure from being public enemy number 1, another issue arose. Her son died. In March 1981, while on a weekend ski trip at Mammoth Lakes, the boy suffered from a breathing problem. The boy went into a coma, cardiac arrest, and died. Bennett was broken. It seemed the world had turned against her. She was twice divorced, her career became a source of pain, and now she lost her son. The actress fell into severe depression. On April 7, 1982, the actress shot herself. Imagine that, her passion doomed her. Tragic, isn't it? Christine Chubbuck. Christine Chubbuck appeared to have the perfect life. She was a respected American television news anchor with several years of experience. Chubbuck was a professional in every sense of the word, and she had a strict air around her and was aloof. But her aloofness was because she was depressed. While the renowned reporter was good at her work, there was one thing she was bad at: making friends. Chubbuck was lonely. She told her family about how she was depressed and suicidal in 1970. She tried to end her life through an overdose, but failed. Eventually, she got help and visited a psychiatrist. Still, the feeling of loneliness and being suicidal didn't stop. Her mother was torn. She wanted to tell Chubbuck's office, but feared her employers would terminate her employment. Chubbuck also tried to turn things around. She developed feelings for a colleague, but when she found out that he was in a relationship, she was devastated. Chubbuck was so far gone that when people tried to be friends with her, she pushed them away. Even her career stopped satisfying her, and she began to criticize herself heavily. On the morning of July 15, 1974, Chubbuck did something out of character. She said she wanted to read a newscast to open Suncoast Digest, a program she anchored. It was weird, but no one thought anything of it. If they had known what would happen next, they would have. As she read the TV newscast, she said, quote, "TV 40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color and exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide." Then she drew a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson Model 36 revolver and shot herself in the head, live on TV. The channel quickly cut to black, aired a public service announcement, and switched to a film. Some viewers called the station to determine what happened, and others dialed 911 to report what they saw. The anchor was rushed to the hospital, where she was declared dead on arrival. That concludes this video on the vintage beauties who shot themselves to death. If you thought this video was fantastic, the next one is even better.